So if you've been watching my ACL and meniscus surgery recovery, warning, everything that I thought that we were doing in PT was part of the appropriate protocol. I found out that it wasn't, and I'm no longer doing PT at that place because they had me doing what is standard for ACL recovery. Uh, so ACL reconstruction recovery, and it did not take into account the fact that my meniscus was sewn back together. I had a bucket tear meniscus. Uh, so the something like the medial and the lateral meniscus were torn so bad that my surgery lasted 4.5 or so hours, maybe 5 hours, and a small portion of that was just the ACL portion of the surgery. The rest of it was him going in and sewing back together. It was like 7 stitches on one side and 5 on the other. Now, I always thought of meniscus tears as not being that big of a deal. And as it turns out, the pain that I was having was associated with how much time they're in there digging around, right? It's a tight space, right, that they have to work in. So it's much more invasive. So I had a PT who was having me run at 10 weeks, which after reading, because it seemed weird, right? So then I started investigating things myself. And as it turns out, I'm not supposed to have done any of those things. I wasn't supposed to be having flexion, right? So the knee bending in this direction at any extreme levels, totally extreme, trying to touch my heel to my hamstring. I wasn't supposed to be squatting deep, squatting ass to the grass, getting in referee's position for wrestling. All of those things were things that I was not supposed to be doing for 4 months, right? So at 16 weeks, I was supposed to only be riding the bike, only squatting to 45 degrees, because my surgeon who I saw on Monday told me that the risk of me re-tearing my meniscus is super high. And they wanted me to not do any of those things for 4 months so that I would allow the collagen, right, to, because you don't really have, like, the meniscus doesn't heal like other things with a good blood supply. So it's like a collagenous, collagen like healing process. And so, yeah. So I saw my surgeon on Monday and he was like, you should do zero of those things, none of those things. What you should be doing now, as he told me, he says, you're a motivated guy and you're going to exercise and build your strength anyway. And I have a gym at my house. So he was like, told me what to do from my house. So I'm going to be doing basic weight training stuff, nothing heavy, right? All endurance, like kind of based stuff. Take it easy, no twisting, none of that, no running. But man, here I thought I was doing the right things. And it's like my surgeon told me part of the problem with working with athletes like you is that when you're making progress quickly, because I already had a lot of leg strength going into this, the PT sort of beats their chest a little bit and wants to push you faster. And he says, just because you can squat ass to the grass doesn't mean you should. And my PT actually called the doctor and they didn't get back to him right away. And then instead of waiting for a response, my PT's response was, well, if you can leg press your own body weight, one leg, single leg press your own body weight multiple times, then you're strong enough to run. That's not incorrect in terms of the stability of the knee, right? But according to my surgeon, it's incorrect in that he doesn't want any pounding and or the shifting that can happen with running. Now, fortunately, I didn't run very much. I only ran like 3 times over like a week and a half period. But I wouldn't have known any of these things if I didn't start reading, and I wouldn't have known any of these things if I didn't start asking questions. And like, they're different protocols. The ACL recovery protocol is not the same as a meniscus stitching ACL protocol. And I want to get back as fast as possible, but I also don't want to re-tear my meniscus. And so he did a test to see that, and it doesn't appear as if it's torn. But when I tore it after I had the injury in judo, I, after a few weeks, was walking around no problem and stuff. So I didn't have a ton of pain despite having a complete giant gash in my meniscus. And they didn't know that I had a meniscus tear because the MRI didn't show it because it was such a clean cut. So, like, it was this circular knife cut. Like it looked like if you took like a piece of chicken and like took a super sharp knife. And so it laid super flat, so they didn't see it in the MRI. But when they're shooting fluid in there during the surgery, it was all flapping around. And then and he told me ahead of time, if I need to stitch your meniscus up, I will, he said. But I don't think I have to because I don't think it's torn. And then he got in there and was like, oh my God. And speaking of which, prior to that, the amount of PT that I was doing deep squats, I was doing heavy leg press, I was doing all the things that my surgeon told me not to freaking do. Like after we discovered that it was a meniscus tear. But like, man, I've been put at risk for the last since August or since September. So I did PT prior to surgery and then afterwards. So the few months, 2 months leading up to the surgery, and then 3 months afterwards, I've literally been doing all sorts of things that threatened making my knee worse. So take it for what it's worth. I mean, sometimes being tough is not a good thing. And I want people to know that, like, watching me run is not something that you should be doing with a meniscus tear. I want you to know that watching me squat ass to the grass is not something that I should have been doing. I was not notified by my physical therapist not to do these things. If in fact you can see the pushing of my foot to my butt is something that my doctor said, I showed him the video. He was like, I can't believe that that was happening. So I'm not his orders. I asked him, I said, I already booked another doctor. I'm supposed to go see another physical therapist. I've already booked up an appointment. And he said, I'm not writing you a script to see another therapist. We're not going to injure your knee. He said, I know that you're a motivated guy. I'm not worried about your strengthening of your leg. Your quad at 13 weeks is what I wanted it at 8 months. So your quad's very strong. You didn't atrophy like most people. My hamstring still sucks though. My hamstring strength is bad, but I was hardly doing any hamstring exercises in PT and I kept bringing it up. So the point of this video is I want to let you know a few things, right? You've got to act, you've got to read and advocate for yourself. You've got to ask questions. I'm an educated guy. I'm a professor of neuroscience, and this is what I do for a living is read things. But I also was like, I'm a busy guy, so I don't have time to investigate all of this. I only started investigating it when I thought that it was starting to become a problem. And I don't know if I'm injured or not. I mean, like I said, I had a terrible tear in my meniscus, and I did not really experience that as a problem after the injury before the surgery. The problem that I had and the reason that I got the surgery was because my knee would slip. Now that's a problem, right? So that's why I got the ACL surgery done. So, who knows? Maybe I have retorn my meniscus, and I'm going to be really fucking pissed if I did. So, but we're just going to have to see. We're just going to have to go from there. I hope that none of that happened. I'm pretty good at listening to my body, which is why I was starting to read and follow up on things. But be careful. Make sure you get a really good physical therapist and fire them if they're not meeting the needs and expectations that you want. Because I want to get back out there, and I got tired of the chirping that I heard in that room. Of people saying, "Well, maybe you're 44 and you should hang it up." Dude, F that. Like, I'm not ready to hang it up. And it's not your decision. That's my decision. I'm not hanging it up. I'm not done grappling. My whole point is to get back out there. And my therapists were barely, or therapist was barely ever involved with what I was doing. I was walking in there and I'm like, okay, do I do this exercise next? Do I do this exercise? Do I do this exercise? So I was running my own game. Like, and you don't want that. On a lot of other levels, I like the guy, but man, I mean, I got to do what's best for me. And I didn't get this far in my life, in my career, by just like blindly being led by people. I started asking questions, and I'm pretty easygoing person, so I don't like confrontations. So I generally don't like confrontations, but I will stand up for myself, and I will stand up for what I believe when it's going to benefit me or if it's going to hurt me. So anyway, that's more than I wanted to say, but I hope that you can listen to this and potentially this can help you if you end up finding yourself in a similar situation, and reach out to me if you need to. You can my Instagram is, I think it's under my bio. If it's not, I'll post it. But my Instagram account's the same as my name, Breza-Grappling. You can send me a DM, any of those things, and I look forward to hearing from you. And I hope that everybody recovers well and doesn't get re-injured during recovery. And I hope everybody has a great day. Oh, happy Valentine's Day.